So we have a special topic that we're going to cover today. I wanted to talk about a food tradition in Sicily. There it is it revolves around couscous. Couscous is an interesting food. It has its origins in Morocco. It's a staple of North African and also Middle Eastern cuisine, but it's also made its way into the Mediterranean cuisines, and particularly in Italy, France, and Spain. And in Sicily, which the Italians call Sicilia, starting this weekend on September the 18th, it is the 23rd Couscous Festival. It's a celebration of couscous, among other things, which I'm going to get to in a moment. One of the things that I really enjoy about history is how it influences culture. And this is an interesting example of history. So, as I mentioned, couscous has its origins in Morocco. If you look at Sicily on a map, you'll see it's situated there at the toe of the proverbial boot in the Italian peninsula, and then right there is North Africa. So it sits literally between North Africa and the peninsula. Now, if you recall, there was a conflict between Carthage, which sat around Tunis, and Rome, and Sicily was right in the middle of that. In addition, the Greeks had outposts there, and as the Arabs and the Moors moved through North Africa, you see some of those Arabian and Middle Eastern influences as well. That's all going to make its way into where we're going today. So Sicily sits right there at the crossroads of all of these different cultures and all of these influences that make their way into the culture, but also into the cuisine. And so that brings me back to the Couscous Festival. One of the things that the festival organizers build the festival is a festival of cultural integration and inclusion. And so essentially all of these different cultures have integrated into Sicilian life. The festival is held in a small town called San Vito lo Capo, which is on the western part of the peninsula near Palermo, and it's very special to that town. But with essentially, it's there will be food, obviously, cooking contests. There's music, there's theater, and it's just this celebration of all of these cultures and traditions. And one of the things that I really found interesting about the festival, one of the events that I read about, there's a cooking event that features 4 migrant chefs. So if you've followed the news in Europe over the last few years, you may have heard that there are a number of refugees that are making their way to Europe from the Middle East and from Africa, and there's been a lot of controversy with that, and a lot of it's really stressed the political system a great deal. But Sicily obviously is sitting right in the middle of that, as it has throughout history, and but I just found it fascinating that there's this cooking event it's meant to feature four migrant chefs, and they are invited to bring elements of their traditions, things that were special to them when they were children, and then combine it with the sort of Mediterranean influence of Sicily and Italy. And I can only imagine, I practically dream about what that must be like, the aromas and the flavors of those dishes that will be prepared. It sounds like a wonderful event. And what I really like about it is it's diversity and inclusion at its core. So if you've been following Wide Roots for the last few weeks, you may have seen that we have been rolling out our company vision and our values. And our number one value is around diversity and inclusion. I got into the wine business personally because I felt before I really knew something about wine, that it was just unapproachable. I was intimidated by it. I was afraid to get into tasting circles. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. And gradually I learned over time and became much more comfortable with it. But over that experience, I thought there has to be a way to make this different and more approachable, because there's just some fantastic bargain-worthy wines, particularly coming to the U.S. from Europe, that if people just knew more about them, they would take a chance and they'd discover something really cool. And as I've been launching the business with the events of the summer and our awareness around minorities and women and what they experience, I thought if I felt this way about wine, then I can't imagine how a black person might feel, or how a woman might feel who's new to it. And so and the crazy thing is if you go to Europe and you visit the wine countries in Europe, it's just literally like, they don't talk about it like sommeliers. They talk about it as the product of their region, and they love their wines, and it's the centerpiece of their gatherings with family and friends, and it's really that simple. And which I really find fascinating. But anyway, bringing me back, from my perspective, diversity and inclusion is, I'm betting my company on that message. We're going to succeed or we're going to fail. And either way, we're going to be diverse and inclusive. So it's just the way it will be. And if you're a minority, if you're a woman, if you're anybody, it doesn't matter. If you're a possible business partner, a customer, I want to talk about wine with you. I want to learn from you, and I want to help you maybe learn some things from me, and I want to raise a glass with you. And because that's really what this is all about. So back to the festival. When I read about this event, it just was it fit so well with the core of why I got into this business. And unfortunately, I can't go to Sicily at the moment. I'm looking forward to going there. So I did my own couscous festival here in my kitchen. I prepared a couscous dish, and the dish is called couscous alla trapanese. I don't know if you can see this, but it's prepared with a fish stock, and it's a tomato-based sauce. I chose to put mussels and shrimp in my sauce, and then that's served over couscous. And the couscous actually is steeped in the fish stock so that it picks up those flavors. I made my own couscous for this dish. I actually learned how to make couscous. And when I release this video, I'm going to do I'll do a picture-in-picture that actually shows me making the couscous. It's maybe not as impressive as it sounds. It's actually not that difficult. And hopefully one of my Italian followers may be able to shed some light on how I can improve my technique once that's launched. But I made my own couscous, and I made the dish almost in the style of a mariscada or a bouillabaisse, or similar to some of it seems like a lot of cultures have that sort of tradition of stews that are made with whatever seafood you can get your hands on. And this is a little bit in that vein. It also has, it's made with cinnamon and a pinch of saffron, and cinnamon was brought to Sicily by the Arabs. And so again, we're kind of back to that cross-cultural integration. You'll find that in couscous alla trapanese if you were to have it in Sicilia. That brings me to wine. So I'm a wine importer. Why am I talking about diversity and inclusion in the Couscous Festival, and what about the wine? Well, if you know anything about Sicilian wine, Sicily has a great wine tradition. It has a lot of great wine traditions. It's the third biggest producing region in Italy at the moment. And I've actually, this dish, so you've got seafood and you've got tomatoes. a little difficult to pair. What I've chosen to pair it with is, I actually have 2 glasses of wine here because I'm going to try with both. But this wine, the white wine, is a Catarratto. Catarratto is an indigenous grape in Sicily. It's very special to that region. It is a crisp, acidic, unoaked white wine. This particular example is from a producer called Centopassi. Centopassi is just outside of Palermo and not far from where the Couscous Festival is taking place. This is very elegant white wine. It's very aromatic. It's complex. It has floral characters. It's got the bright fruit. It's just wonderful. There's a ripe fruit element to it, but there's a little bit of a cooked fruit, like a baked apple, baked lemon, and then a wildflower aroma, and then you get a little bit of like a lager beer character they do lease aging with this, and there's an element of the soil which is very important to Centopassi and their wines. They really take pride in their vineyards and their soil. This wine was recognized by a publication in Italy called Gambaro Rosso. Gambaro Rosso is a travel and food and wine publication. They publish this book every year. This is Italian wines. Look at how thick this is. This particular book has 2,500 producers, which is nowhere near all of the producers in Italy. And every year, Gambaro Rosso has a panel of tasters that blind taste wines all over Italy, all 20 regions of Italy. And they rate quality of wines based on 1, 2, or 3 glasses. So 3 glasses is the highest quality rating. It's called Tre Bicchieri in Italian. Tre Bicchieri is a very prestigious recognition for an Italian wine. There are only 457 wines that were recognized with this designation by Gambaro Rosso. And I'm pleased to say that this Catarratto is one of those wines from Centopassi. And then next to it, I have a blend of Nero d'Avola and Pericone. Nero d'Avola, if you're familiar with Sicilian wine, is also an indigenous grape in Sicily. Pericone is less well known, but it's also one that they take pride in. This was recognized with 2 glasses, or 2 bicchieri. And that is just again, a wonderful, complex. You've got elements of bright fruit, red fruit. It's ripe, but there's also a little bit of a baked character, which is that Sicilian climate. You've got warm, sunny days, but it's moderated by the Mediterranean Sea because you're on this island. And you've got the soil, the taste of the rocks and the limestone and the ground that makes its way into this wine. So these are really, really fantastic wines made by Centopassi. Centopassi is an interesting story. It's a family winery. They are operating on lands that were confiscated from the mafia, and they sell their products through a co-op called Libera Terra, which is actually an organization that gives farm-based businesses a way to do business without involving the mafia. So it's a really interesting story. But really, the real story, I think, is just the quality of the wines that they're making. Centopassi's wines are available in some markets in the U.S., and I am looking forward to having them in market here in Maryland in January. So keep following and stick with me for more news and updates there. So I want to thank you for joining me with this live stream today and listening to me talk about the Couscous Festival and Couscous alla Trapanese. and the wines of Centopassi in Sicily. We'll be doing this more often. We'll be rolling out updates here and there similar to this as we get closer to our launch here in the Maryland market, and I hope you'll join me in the future with these. So thank you very much for following, and I hope to see you around, and enjoy your Sunday. Bevi Italiano, as they say in Italy. Ciao, grazie.